Yeah. Well,
Right.
some days I don't feel like I'm built for it either.
Wow.
And I've lived here my whole life.
Really?
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Well, I think that we will get started. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee with a Cowgirl. I'm Brett Kruger. I am really excited for today. I should back up. Holly and I were talking earlier, and I said one of my favorite things about the world is the people in it. I'm just so fascinated with the stories that make up people, the things that they've been through, and ultimately shape their life and what is going on around them. And I'm really excited to have Holly here with me today because she has got an amazing story. I've actually never met Holly. We've talked on the phone, and Holly was actually a suggestion from my husband. Brandon met Holly and her husband, Ben, a couple months ago. And Brandon said, Breck, I really think that Holly would be somebody that would be interesting to have. And after talking to her yesterday, I was like, yes, because Holly has a super interesting story. And it's not just because she's an Australian who moved to America, but her story is one that's full of perseverance through difficult times. And it's a tale of how she carved out a purpose that would benefit her heart and her mind. And ultimately, by doing that, she's created an empire for women around makeup and making them feel beautiful. And it's just so cool. And I told her earlier, I said, I think what I think is the most cool part, or the coolest part about your story, is probably the part that you don't even think is that cool. But I'm really enamored by it. I think it's amazing. So with that being said, I would like to introduce our guest this morning, Miss Holly Royal.
Hello. That made me give goosebumps. I've never thought of any of it like that, and so that was really sweet, and I kind of just gave me goosebumps, Breck.
Well, it is so cool. You are what I would consider a cowgirl boss babe. And you wear so many hats, Holly, and just even after talking to you for a very short time, I think that a lot of women don't realize what an inspiration they actually are. And I can't wait to tell your story, or have you tell your story, because there's definitely some defining and inspiring moments in there. And for me, the best part about your story is how you took what could have been a tragedy and turned it into a freaking empire. So cool. So introduce yourself, Holly, and let's get started.
Okay. Well, I'm Holly Royal, and of course I am Australian. We moved over here about 6 years ago. My husband Ben is a cutting horse trainer, and we just packed up our whole life and our little boy and moved over a few years ago for him to pursue his dreams. He had lived here previously before meeting me and before getting married and having Brooklyn, and he was home for a few years, and people just kept asking him to come back, and he kept saying no. And I was like, I couldn't imagine, having that amount of talent and having a dream and not living that or trying to fulfill that or bring it to fruition. So I was just like, this is what you want to do, let's do it. So we did. And
that's a huge move. It's not like you're just moving from Minnesota to Texas. You're literally moving across the world, and that's a big undertaking. I'm assuming you just bought new stuff when you got here.
We had a suitcase each. That was it. Yeah.
Wow. That's so cool.
We sold everything we owned, invested it in visas. It was quite an ordeal. And I have always been a very transient person. I moved around a lot as a kid, and so moving has never really been tumultuous for me. And so I kind of didn't put into perspective how big the undertaking actually was that I was doing. I was just, it's a new adventure, let's go. I don't think a lot. I just act. I'm very much a type that's just, let's do it, and we'll figure it out as we go. And that is kind of the story of my life, and that's how all the businesses have kind of generated it. It's more things that I've just started doing, and it's all kind of falling into place with the path of least resistance. And that's definitely, you know, how we've lived our life thus far. So yeah, that's kind of how we got here, and we started in California, and we were there for a few years, and then we had the beautiful opportunity to move out to Texas about 2 years ago, and we've been here ever since.
And when we were talking yesterday, you were talking about how, you know, it wasn't easy right away from the start, and there were moments where you questioned what you, I don't know if you necessarily did, but Ben might have questioned like the move and everything. Just, I can't imagine though, because you moved across the world to do this, and I mean, very rarely do things just come together like that, right? It takes time.
And it was funny because, you know, I kind of lost myself for a while there. Like, I felt like I had lost a lot of my identity, like what made me me during the day, like all the little nuances and habits that I had at home, even just like waking up and being able to call your mom or talk to your sister, all of those things had dissipated. And I was very much like, I had a 4-year-old, then we're trying to figure out, because yes, it was tumultuous, like the opportunity we came over for fell through in 6 weeks. And so we then scrambled. And sorry, I'm just going to turn this down a little bit.
You know, the other thing, Holly, before, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but something that goes in with that you talked to me about yesterday was in that time frame, like when things fell through, not only when things fell through, but you grew up riding dressage horses. So you did not, and you didn't start riding until you were 25, more or less. Mm-hmm. You know, Holly's husband trains cutting horses. So that's much, you know, those are two incredibly different events. And Holly had to sacrifice, I shouldn't say sacrifice, because you did it because you love your husband and you wanted to see him succeed. She learned how to ride cutting horses to help him, because you were ultimately your husband's your husband's loper and right hand person.
Yep, everything.
So you turned from a dressage rider to a cutter in a short amount of time to help grow his business. All well, you've moved to a new country and things aren't going the way that you anticipated, and trying to figure that all out. So I'm sure that it was mentally and just hard.
It was, and I think people thought that I'd had a background in this in Australia, because Ben and I'd been married in Australia. They naturally assumed that I had worked cattle and I'd turned back for Ben and I'd loped for him at shows. And that was not the case. Like, we lived very separate lives in regards to our sports. And although I was always there to cheer for him, I wasn't a part of that, you know, area of his life. I was doing my own things. And so, yeah, it took a little bit for people to be like, oh my gosh, this is what you're doing now? And I'm like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. I call it turning to the dark side. I went from dressage to now being obsessed with cattle. But yeah, until we had moved over here, I had never, ever worked cattle or been near them. Like, so they scared me.
How hard was that transition? Like,
well, I'm kind of like, let's just get things done. And I don't like going fast. Like, dressage is a very controlled sport. And so I had to learn really quick to just like pedal to the metal and go and get things done. And I actually really enjoyed it. But yes, it did take a bit of transition to figure out things were a little different. Like, every cutting horse I got on, I was like, this horse is lame. And Ben's like, no, they just move differently to warm bloods. I'm like, no, something's wrong. Like, no, that's just the way they move.
That's how it is.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. But I loved it. And then, you know, because of that, I had the opportunity to haul for the world. We had some beautiful friends and clients, you know, lend me horses so I could, you know, learn to show. And then that kind of moved into hauling for a title. And, you know, it's just been a fantastic adventure. So I've been pretty fortunate.
You know, early on in your move when we were in our conversation yesterday, and you said that things didn't work out right away like you thought that they were, and Ben had questioned, which almost everybody would question, like, shit, did I make the right decision? And moving up, uprooting my family, moving them to the States and all that, yada, yada, yada. But I think in so many people's lives, like, situations like that happen daily, and it's so easy to just quit, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy to just say, you know what, I'm going to walk away from this. But the best things in life are the things that you have to work your ass off for, and that normally don't go as planned. So kudos to you guys, because from California you moved to Texas.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had the opportunity. Chris Johnsrud and Ben had worked together many years previously to Ben meeting me. He was working at Gavin Jordan's, and that's where he met Chris. And so they've been really good friends for a long time. And he called Chris, and they were just having a chat. And Chris was like, "Why don't you come out here?" And we were like, "Well, why not? Like, we moved from Australia to California. What's California to Texas?" And
no big deal.
No big deal. And as long as like Ben, Brooklyn, and I are together, we're happy. Yeah. Like, we're very simple people, like very minimalistic people. And so, as long as we're together, we can always work things out. So we were like, why not?
Very cool. So after you moved to Texas, Holly, you had told me yesterday that then you kind of lost yourself again, because you're like, I'm not needed anymore because you had fallen into the role of Ben's assistant. Yeah. And then when you didn't need to be Ben's assistant anymore, let's talk about that, like what that looked like. And because that's when your story really, well, you went through hell after that point, but that's when the story gets good, I think.
Well, yeah, we moved out to Texas, and I wasn't needed anymore. We only brought 2 horses out with us. One of them was my own personal horse, and the other one was a client horse. And it wasn't long, and the client horse sold, and it was just my little mare. So I would just come out and, tinker about and come back to the house and just twiddle my thumbs and be like, well, what now? And, I have to wait 8 hours before I can call any of my family back home in Australia. So I was because of the time change. So I was really isolated. And of course, Brooklyn was in school, and I really just didn't know what to do. And then we got to later in the year, and a friend of ours called Ben and was like, can Holly come and show lope? And I was like, sure. I haven't really loped in like 8-9 months. I'll probably be a little unfit, but sure, I'm so happy to help anyone with anything. And so I went down to show lope. First day was totally great. Second day, handed one off, no problem. Went and cleaned stalls, washed boots, and then suddenly I broke out in these golf ball-sized welts everywhere. And I went up to the restroom to get changed and actually blacked out. What happened essentially was I had had a tooth pulled a couple of weeks prior, because as we were discussing yesterday, Brett, I have a little brain tumor, and it's a prolactinoma, and it lives in my pituitary gland. And it's fine, it's, benign, but it just does cause a little bit of havoc here and there. Like, I don't drive because I black out. And so I wake up in the hospital, I'm wrapped in foil, and they're like, ma'am, your heart is shutting down. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, we don't know what's going on. Ben didn't know, because the friend I was with, he was showing, he had a whole team. And so, they were trying to play cat and mouse, and it took Ben like 3 hours to even get to me and see what was going on. And I was on bed rest for nearly 4 months.
So crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. And it took them such a long time to figure out what was going on. And they figured out, because I'd had the tooth taken out, that when I cleaned the stalls, I must have had a reaction to something, and like an allergic reaction, and it had kicked off an autoimmune response. And so the infection actually spread to my brain, and my brain started attacking my heart, and it was chaotic. It was crazy. And like I said, I was on bed rest for 4 months, and what broke my heart the most was that we had to sell my mare. I'd only had the opportunity to show her once, and we'd raised her from, you know, a baby, and we had to sell her just to help cover medical expenses and things like that. And then, like, I had nothing to even try and get out of bed for. Like, Brooklyn's so self-sufficient, so, like, I didn't have to try and help him get to school. He'd be like, Mom, it's fine. And I just, like, watched the world, like, go by for 4 months just on the couch, and it was brutal. And once I started to feel a bit better, my girlfriend, Devlin, she was like, Holly, you're so good at makeup. And I was like, no, I'm not. And she's like, no, you really are. Like, why don't you start doing videos? Why don't you start doing Facebook Lives? And I was like, no one's going to want to see that. Like, people are going to pick on me for my teeth. Like, I don't want to, like, put myself out there. People are going to think I'm vain. Like, I had all these excuses not to do it. And she literally stopped me in my tracks and was like, promise me you'll try. And I was like, dang, I can't say no to that. Like, I love a challenge. I'm so competitive. And when those words hit me, I was like, what's the harm? Like, what's the harm? And so that's kind of how that all started.
You know, I think that, well, you know, when you're going through the chaos at the time, you don't, it's hard to explain it, but when you're going through the chaos at the time, you can't ever see the bright side of anything. But for you, like, the chaos, even though it's terrible chaos because it's your health, I mean, so much good was born from that chaos. And that chaos is really, I mean, it fueled your fire, and you never in a million years, I mean, just talking to you yesterday, I mean, I don't think that you ever thought that you would be where you are today with what you're doing.
No, like, I didn't think I'd ever be confident enough. Like, I was always so concerned about, you know, people's opinions, or I was always so self-destructive anyway, because I was like, well, that's never going to be good enough because I'm so competitive. I kind of put a lot of expectations on myself, and it took me a really long time to just be okay with just figuring things out and just taking an opportunity and saying yes, and then seeing where that path will lead you. And I feel that, you know, having the courage just to try sometimes is all you need to, you know, for your whole life to change.
I think that that is the nature of women, especially, is they are their own worst enemies and they hold themselves back. We all do it because I think, well, we talk about this almost every week, is that society has placed such unrealistic expectations, and we see like all the perfectness, and nobody ever talks about the shit, right?
Yep.
Like, nobody ever talks about the shit that you have to go through. And so it is so awesome what you're doing, Holly. And just in our conversation before we got started today, you were talking about lighting, and I'm just sitting here laughing. I'm like, oh, I feel my one ring light is a little bright and I can barely see, but I'm like,
you come into the glam room, and like right now I'm doing my head in that the lighting's not right, because normally I'm in a different location. But just to go back to what you were saying, what I've learned in this journey the most is what connects us is our brokenness. What connects us, especially as women, having someone that you can have say, I may not understand, but I hear you and I feel you, is so vital. And that's what I love so much about the lives, is not necessarily even doing the makeup. It's just having that connection, knowing, A, I'm not alone, because I struggled with that for a really long time, but knowing that people are waiting for me to have a chat with them. And that is so powerful. And the conversations and the relationships that stem from that, because if I say something like, oh, I'm having a crummy day, or, you know, the kids are doing this, and I'm like, you know, someone else is maybe going through that exact same thing, and like, oh, I'm not alone. Like, someone else is feeling that too. And I have really, that is what has made my heart so full is making those connections and just, yeah, I don't know, it's been so powerful. It's so hard to explain to people that have never been live before, but as soon as you hit that live button, it's like your heart just is so ready to talk to people. And like I said, I don't drive, so I don't get to just go to the shops or go and meet girlfriends for coffee. That moment when I press live, that's my conversation for the day until Ben and Brooklyn come home. And
that is so good, Holly. And I mean, a lot of us can't relate to that, but after you explaining it to me, I definitely understand where that is a connection for you. And I mean, ultimately, what you're doing now and the empire that you've built, I mean, it is good for your heart and your soul and your mind. And it is probably what has kept you out of like the abyss and the turmoil of where you could be, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I kind of made a conscious decision when I was starting to feel better at the end of those 4 months. I sat myself down and I was really brutal. And I was like, no longer am I going to live my life in darkness. I've lived a lot of my life in turmoil. Even prior to meeting Ben, prior to moving to America, I had lived in a lot of darkness. And I realized how powerful what we say to ourselves is. And I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to live in darkness. I'm going to take control and I'm going to be the one that is going to save myself. I can't expect anybody else to
Anybody else to do it. Yeah.
I can't take anyone else to take away the grief or the pain or the anything else. I'm the only one that can control how I react to things and how I'm going to feel about things. And so that definitely resonated with me so much with everything I do from this point on. I only make decisions based on if they are going to fuel my soul with joy, or if they're going to help my family, or if they're going to bring me like happiness. That's pretty much it. Like, or if it's going to serve somebody. Like, service is such a big part of what I do, is like serving people's souls. And even though it might just be like a foundation or skincare or a conversation, whatever it is, that's what like I love so much is just fueling joy. Like that's so powerful.
Well, in our conversation yesterday too, Holly, I mean, ultimately, if you always concentrate on serving people in the right way and in a good way, God will always take care of you. I mean, I truly feel it that way, that you will always be repaid back and things will work out and be figured out, I guess. Outable.
Yeah.
I think that is really cool about your story is, and we've already kind of briefly touched about this, but I want to touch about it more, is you have built this thing from the ground up. And we were talking right before this morning, you were talking about the lighting, and I'm like, how did you learn about that? Like, did you just always know that, or you just jumped and you figured it out along the way with the help of really good people? And you said, I just jumped and I figured it out. I knew nothing about any of this stuff. So talk about how you started your businesses and what your businesses look like today, Holly, and maybe what's next on your plate, or if you're good, you're just going to keep it where it is.
Well, it was really funny. So I started doing just makeup tutorials on Facebook, as my friend suggested.
Not selling any product.
Not selling anything. Like, I literally just did it. No, I literally just did it because it was something to do, and she challenged me to do it. And so I wasn't selling products.
To her.
Yeah, and that's not what I ever started it for. And then people kept asking for recommendations. And I would send them like a list of things from Sephora. And I'd be like, this is what you need. And people would be like, thanks. And then I'd talk them through how to do it. We'd have like a Zoom call or a FaceTime, and I'd show them how to do it. And then
she did not work for Sephora.
No affiliates, no nothing. I did it to purely help. And
you did this because of your passion.
Like, nothing, just because I wanted to help. Yes. And then it was just before Futurity, and Meg and Johnsrud must have been talking to Mark Michaels, who owns Cutting Horse Central, who's our neighbor, and he'd asked her to do some interviews for the World Finals, and she was like, no, but you should definitely ask Holly. And like I said, I'd been on bed rest for 4 months. I didn't know a lot of people in Texas anyway. And Mark asked me, and we'd never met. And I was like, okay, sure. And so I had the opportunity to do some interviews at the World Finals, which I love so much because I hauled in 2017. So I understand the journey, what it takes, like what you've got to do to get to that point. And I actually knew a lot of the people that I'd be interviewing, so I felt like it was a safe thing to do.
Comfortable, yeah.
Yeah, but that gave me a whole nother level of confidence that I didn't have. And I realized that I really, really love learning about people. I love interviewing people and figuring out who they are, what their stories are, like what got them to this point. And so I was really fortunate that Mark gave me that opportunity, and he's the one that has taught me about lighting or lent me lights. And as I've gone along, I've just YouTube things and figured things out and played with things. And I think if you're super passionate about something, nothing will get in your way. Like nothing will honestly stop you if you live and breathe something. And that's kind of how I've kind of gone about everything, is like, I just figure it out. Just figure it out.
So now you sell makeup for 𝗵𝘂, right? Yes. And you have become, like, in their company, you rose through the ranks really fast. So you've got that going, and you also do photography, which you told me started as a hobby, and now it's something that you do for many different people with their own businesses, real estate, horse people, and then you do social media marketing. So your plate is full, but
it is full, but I love it. And see, I'm very like chaotic in my brain. I'm always looking to be doing something, and so I love.
So do you ride the line of ADHD?
I'm pretty sure as an adult,
yeah, me too.
It has become really apparent that I have some problems. Like even writing things down, they have to be like color coordinated, and like I'll go to do one task and I'll end up doing 10 other tasks before I get that one task. Like
yeah,
I'm a hot mess, but I love it because I get to stay creative and I'm present in so many different things. It's really weird, and it's hard to explain. But yeah, the 𝗵𝘂, I think I have at this stage like a team of 35 from not knowing anybody. Like when I came here, I knew nobody, and I've met everyone online. My whole team, I think there's one lady I've met in real life. No, 2 ladies I've met face to face. The rest of my team, we've all just found each other through like 6 degrees of separation. Or me just reaching out going, you look like you're my type of, well, like Breck, like yourself. Like I just reached out and was like, you look like you're going to be my friend. And I just added you. And then your husband was like, hey, I think you and my wife are friends on Facebook. But that's how I've built friendships and opportunities and ways to be able to help, is literally through social media. And so I'd always done Ben's page. And then a girlfriend of mine recommended me for Cowgirl Dressage World, and they were my first account. And then from there, it stemmed into like a whole other thing. So apart from training people on 𝗵𝘂, I now build content courses to teach them how to do it. Then I also create content and run social media pages for businesses. And there's a lot of moving parts, but at the end of the day, I don't have a specific goal for my businesses at the moment. I have a specific goal for my family. And I think that's what keeps everything in motion, is that I have a dream and a goal for my family, and I will do anything it takes to make that come true. Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Holly, I always ask 2 questions because we're kind of nearing the end of the interview. But I always ask 2 questions, and the first one is, what is something that is unique about you that people may or may not know?
Oh, I don't know. I'm an open book. So most people know everything because
no secrets.
There's no secrets. I don't want anyone to ever feel like they can't ask me anything. But I think we've kind of revealed a lot of my secrets, is that like I didn't grow up like a normal person. I had a whole heap of, troublesome things happen. And, then of course being diagnosed with a brain tumor like that, there is just so many crazy different things. And, but I feel like there's no secrets. Like if anyone needed to ever ask anything, it's there to know. So I want to let people in and not have any secrets.
Help them.
Yeah, well, and I think that serves yourself as well, because at the end of the day, like, you're living your own life, and if you live in your truth, you are bringing so much more power to yourself, to the people around you, than hiding.
Isn't it funny though, because that comes with age. You don't just, like, in your 20s and early teens, you don't feel that way. But the older you get, the easier it is to live your truth and be who you want to be.
Yeah.
Which leads me to my next question, which is, what does be the cowgirl that you want to be mean to you?
So like I said, I'm super competitive, and I finally got a horse, and of course it's been another tumultuous week, but I would really love to haul for another world title. When I first hauled, I kind of just like had in the back of my mind that I was going to beat Ben's world record. Even though he'd been standing for like 10 years, I thought, you know what? I've been cleaning his buckles for 7 years. I'm going to go and get my own buckles, and I'm going to win a world title as well. So one day I would love to have a world title in cutting. I've never shown in an aged event, so I would love to do that. But and as corny as it sounds, I just love having one horse and having him be my best friend. And that's really what I love most about being a cowgirl, is having that special animal that is your best friend, and you get to go and, enjoy and spoil and have fun with. And so I don't really have massive goals. I just love doing what we do. And like I said, most of my goals are for my family. Like, I would love to buy a house and, have a ranch and all of those things. So yeah, that's kind of more my goals. And yeah,
I love it.
Sorry, I feel like I didn't answer them very well.
No, you did amazing. I think it's funny that you said that about the one horse, because well, as the wife of a horse trainer as well, and I'm sure you too, we ride lots of different horses, but I just want one. Like, if we're gonna go to a horse show, I'll show many different ones, but please just let me have one, like, that everybody else has to stay off of, and it's just me.
Yeah.
Unless there's a problem and Brandon needs to fix it, I just want it to be my horse, because then I don't want the pressure of them getting them tired or messed up for me. I want to get on and know my horse and do my thing. And I don't know if I just didn't think a lot of other people were like that. So I think it's funny that.
Well, see, I'd gone from dressage having my one horse, and then moving to a barn where we, eventually had 20 to 30. And I love every horse like it's my own. So I found it really hard to navigate with clients and customers, because like, their horse was my family, and I live, like, if someone tells me their dream, I'm wholeheartely in for that dream. And I'm very like black and white when I'm like, okay, this is what we've got to do to get here. Like, I get like, okay. And so, navigating that was kind of a little bit difficult, because I just get really passionate. But we had some phenomenal customers in California that have become friends, and even here now, like, Ben's outside clients are absolutely amazing. But that's the one thing I really struggled with, is I'm very OCD. Like, I'd be checking legs, I'd be doing this, and like, I am very controlling in a barn situation. So it's been really nice just to step back and not have that anxiety, because I cared too much. Like, I don't know if that's a thing, but I cared too much. Like, I would be the one at 1 a.m. getting up, making sure that nobody had like got cast or colicked, or like, it took a lot, like, of my soul.
Yeah,
a lot.
Well, thank you so much, Holly. If anybody has any questions, quickly type them in the chat too. Holly, tell people where they can find you on social media.
Well, I live on Facebook. Facebook is my jam. You can find me at Beauty by Holly Royal. And then also my personal page is Holly Royal. But really, you'll find me anywhere. Like you'll probably get sick of me more than anything, but I predominantly live on Facebook, but there's Instagram as well, which is at 𝗕𝗏𝗏, and then TikTok's the same. TikTok's a new thing for me, and it's lots of fun, but man,
it's
social media is everywhere at the moment. Yep.
Learning all these social media sites, isn't it?
Oh. Sorry, I don't know what happened.
You're fine.
Yeah, no, that's social media is amazing, and I love it so much, and it's so much fun, and yeah, it's just exploding. And if you have a business and you aren't on social media, you need to be. Like, you need to be. This is the place and the space. Like, it has saved so many people's lives during COVID. Like, I don't know how many women signed up to join 𝗵𝘁 and they were like, I lost my job. I didn't know how I was going to pay for the kids to eat. Like, so many crazy stories came out of COVID, and social media spaces really did give so many different people opportunities to change their lives, and I think that's phenomenal.
I agree. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Holly. Love you. Love your story.
You're so sweet. Thank you for having me.
Yes, yes. Well, so the next couple weeks, I'm going to be on the road. I'm going to be in Fort Worth, Texas all week next week. And I'm so excited because we're going to have our first, I'm going to have my first live interview with Hattie Wolf from Wolf Cow Horses. Yeah, I'm so excited.
He's amazing. Amazing.
Thank you. Hattie's a trick rider, and she also rides cow horses. So that's going to be super cool. The next week, I'm going to be in Reno, looking for some ideas of somebody to do in Reno at the rodeo, possibly. So, Wendy Peterson is one of my really good friends, and in the chat she put, "I'm a hot mess, but I love it." And you must have said that.
I did. I'm a total hot mess. And then squirrel brain too.
Well, then Wendy said, "I need to learn to love being my hot mess self," and I think that is something that takes time, and I think that you just have to stop caring so much about what is going on around you and just embrace the hot mess that you are, right?
Yeah. And honestly, who has everything together?
Nobody. It's a lie.
Nobody.
It's a lie.
If you're not my friend, I'm sorry. No, everyone's my friend. But if I see someone that's fully perfect, I'm like, I don't know how you live that life. I don't know how you live. I would love to, but I'm not that person.
No. Well, thank you so much again, Holly. I think our connection. Oh.
Yeah.
There we go.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Thank you guys for joining us. I hope that everybody enjoyed Holly. I sure have. She is a bright, shining star, and so thankful to have her this morning. So thank you, everyone. Have a great week. Stay cool, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks.
Bye, guys. Thank you for having me.